Welcome, folks. My name is Kevin Yin. I'm here with Tara Acton, and we're here to talk about loyalty to the profession. And what the first time we broached this topic, it was the question that popped into mind is, do we care, right? What does it matter? The response that popped in my head was, yes, we do. And the reason why we should care is because loyalty to the profession, it may mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we're going to try to help you determine what that is and what it means for you through various questions. But for me, it's ultimately about the impact that I'm making to the not only to the profession, but and advancing the profession, but also to the community and moving the community forward as well. And so, doing great things for the community that we serve. So, what does it mean to you, Tara?
So I like sort of the two questions, why do we care and what does it actually mean to be loyal to the profession? I think why we care is fulfillment in what we're doing and understanding where your loyalty lies, what motivates you, I think helps you find that fulfillment. And I think that you and I and a lot of procurement professionals tend to be loyal to the profession without realizing that that's where your loyalty lies. So for me, I fell into this career path just like everyone else does. And yet we stick around, even though times get difficult and there's a lot of demands and we're constantly doing more with less. And I think that's because we are loyal to the profession. I've always known that procurement will be my chosen path, that I will stay in procurement in some capacity until I retire. And so I think in order to get to the bigger question, which is what does it mean to be loyal to the profession, or am I loyal to the profession? It's probably easier to talk about what it's not, or work your way through some questions. Like for me, number one is, what would motivate you to leave your position? If choosing another role within your organization was motivation enough to leave your position, you're probably not loyal to the profession. And that's not a bad thing. That's just saying that your loyalty is not in procurement if you're willing to stay within your organization, but leave a procurement role.
Yeah,
and different pieces of that, Kevin, right?
Absolutely. So like if you're leaving because of pay or title, right? You'll probably, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There is nothing wrong with that, just to make it clear. But it's probably not because you're loyal to the profession. And looking out for number one is a good idea, right? But again, if you're leaving for pay or title, it's probably not loyal to the profession. And so, but let's say that you're leaving because you don't feel respected in what you do by leadership, meaning that you don't have a seat at the table. You're not impacting the organization in a way that that further procurement in terms of the process, procedures, and all of that. You're probably loyal to the profession, right? Because you want the profession to grow and be respected. But if leadership is not there to support you in what you do day in, day out, meaning that they're making decisions, overriding your decisions, procurement decisions, it's probably a good time to leave. And if you're leaving because of that, you're loyal to the profession. But another important topic that to ask is volunteerism, right? The support and impact of volunteer. Tara, what do you think?
Yeah, it's funny going back to pay or title. If you're leaving and there is a pay increase or a title change, that's not saying you're not loyal, but if it's your primary motivation, it may not be loyalty to the profession. If all these other things play into it, if you're going to work for a respected leader within our field, if you're going to work for an organization that you know respects procurement and values procurement, and you're getting a paying title, you're probably still loyal to the profession, but there's kind of a little bit of both. And I think a huge piece of that is volunteerism or just involvement with a professional organization, just being part of a professional organization and having that support. So I will say both times that I've made career moves, that has been a huge factor for me, because I know when times are tough, or maybe if there's a leadership struggle and I'm not feeling as impactful in my role, it may not be that they're circumventing me or they're asking me to do anything unethical, but I just might not feel as empowered. Being able to volunteer and making an impact on a much grander scale is what's kept me engaged, kept me motivated. And so I think as we talk throughout this segment or this broadcast of Radio NIGP, and even in coming shows, that will be a key thing to kind of think through is sometimes life just isn't rosy where you're at, but being able to be engaged with professional organizations, being able to volunteer helps you stay engaged, helps you find that fulfillment and kind of take control of your destiny. So I think that's a huge piece of it. I think there's just a lot to talk about on this topic in general. And I think I would just invite everyone to stick around and watch the whole show. We're going to go much more in depth on a lot of these concepts and sort of help connect why it's important and maybe give you ideas on how to feel that passion, feel that engagement, even if you are going through a difficult time. So thank you for listening to Kevin and I. We hope you enjoy the show, and we hope to see you again on Radio NIGP. Hi, this is Tara, and I'm here with Charlie on Hot Topics for Radio NIGP. And this month, we're talking about staying loyal to the procurement profession. And really what we wanted to talk through is, should I stay or should I go? Kind of looking at those times in your career where you're feeling challenged in certain ways, or you're feeling like things just aren't a great fit, and making that difficult decision to possibly leave an agency, even though it means still staying within the procurement profession. What are some of the things that might motivate you to leave? Or things that may motivate you to stay even through tough times. So Charlie, we'll kind of start with you and your story. I know right now you're struggling with some low staffing, but yet you continue to stay. So do you want to kind of talk through that?
Yeah. So, hello, my good friend. How are you? Right. Can you believe it's almost Christmas? Crazy, crazy. So, so first of all, I've been in the public sector for, if you can believe it, 26 years. I know I'm really still only 28, but 26 years in the public sector. Of those 26 years, about 15 or so in public procurement. Overall, I love giving back to the community. So no matter if I'm currently working now with Cleveland Metro Parks, or when I was with the state of Ohio, I was doing something for the community, for the better good. Like, for example, like currently now at Cleveland Metro Parks, ultimately we are here. Our goal, our mission is to protect nature, sustainability, connecting communities to our Great Lake Erie with various bike paths and walking paths, and connecting our kids to nature with various, we have actually preschools in our nature centers, which is a really cool thing. We got now 9 golf courses. So like what I love about it is, and why I'm hoping, my plan is to stay here with Cleveland Metro Parks for another 8+ years before I retire, is because I just love what we do for Northeast Ohio and the community. Especially during COVID, if you remember those days where you couldn't go anywhere. Well, everybody escaped to Cleveland Metro Parks here in Northeast Ohio. Or let me say this, a lot of people escaped to Cleveland Metro Parks because you could go take a hike down in one of our park reservations, or you could still go golfing. You could go to the beach and go swimming in Lake Erie. There was like a lot of things still, even though we were shut down, but there were still ways for people to escape. And for me, I love being part of that. Do I deal with our guests? Absolutely not. But I work with our staff on multiple levels to make sure what our citizens and our guests are experiencing throughout, the park district is a positive thing. So that's why I love what I do, because it's something different every day. Have I have I received opportunities potentially to leave because maybe another job with a better title and a higher paying, higher salary? Honestly, yes. But ultimately I decided to stay, even though, as you mentioned that, I do have some staffing issues right now. But the good thing is I have a new person starting on January 8th, which is fantastic. But my goal is to stay until I retire, which is at the end of 2031, which is crazy. So
it's interesting because as you were talking, it kind of goes back to when I've mentored people, I talk about this too, this like values alignment. And so if the organization that you're working for, if part of their overall mission aligns well with your values, you can take on some of those difficult things. You can take on understaffing. You can take on surviving through COVID and doing more with less and learning how to do things virtually and implementing software systems. Like there's a lot of difficult things that we do. And it's not that you go to work every day and you love that moment, but when you can link it to your overall values, sometimes the pay, sometimes the title doesn't matter if I know the organization I'm in is actually doing something that makes a difference, that aligns with what matters to me personally. I would also say, for me, I've been in organizations where I've enjoyed the work, I enjoy the mission. I've been in county government or city government, and I'm like you. I like being able to be out in the community and see how the things that I've worked on, the projects I've worked on, are bettering my community, however that may be. But I have changed jobs, and I've changed jobs. Sometimes it's sort of pay title motivated. My most recent position, it was really hard to leave the city of Tucson. I loved those people, but being able to come to an organization that I knew would be supportive, that I knew met all of those things, being able to grow in my career was a big deal. But also knowing that they supported professional organizations. I mean, this is radio NIGP. I specifically made sure that they would support my involvement with NIGP before I took the offer. So it's things like that, because the grass is not always greener on the other side. I've mentored people. I've worked with people that have left and gone to other agencies, and it's a tough spot to be in, because you want to say, like, look, you do what works for you to advance professionally, do what works for you to figure out what aligns with your values. But when I've heard bad things about an organization or an agency, I want to like caution them, like, you may just be a cog in a machine. They may not be a strategic procurement function. Like there's things that you take for granted until you try to go to where the grass is greener on the other side. So like, I'm an advocate for stay unless there's a really compelling reason to go. And maybe we should talk through quickly, I don't even know how much time we have left, what might be compelling reasons to leave. So I think you and I have both been fortunate. When you left and came to Metro Parks, it wasn't like you left for some bad reason. When I left the county, went to the city, and then when I left the city and came back to the county, it wasn't like somebody asked me to do something unethical. It wasn't like, I thought they were, breaking a law or the changes were bad. But are there times that you think it would make sense to, like, if something suddenly changed at Cleveland Metro Parks, what might motivate you to be like, oh, I've got to get out of here, even if it means I'm serving my last 8 years somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I will get to that, but you talked about values, and I think that's key. In most cases, what we do here at the park does align with my values, and that to me is probably one of the big reasons why I stayed. But what would make me go? So, like, I think it would be leadership. I report directly to our CFO, and then our CFO directly reports to our CEO. Actually, they are really head to head. But like, I would say, if our leadership, we have 8 or 9 different chiefs at throughout the park, and I would say overall, I value and I look up to them as leaders of our organization. So if maybe leadership change in their values and integrity and so on and so forth may change, possibly I would maybe look at other options. But honestly, for me, I just love what we do. So I grew up in Cleveland. Short story, grew up in Cleveland, and then I moved down to Columbus, Ohio to go to Ohio State University, thinking I was only going to be in Columbus for 4 or 5 years. Well, I ended up being down there for 15 years. made my way back home about 15 years ago. And I said, if I ever make it back home, where do I want to work? I want to work for Cleveland Metro Parks. And I was lucky enough to land here. So yeah, to answer your question, Tara, I mean, could another opportunity come up? Absolutely. Would I leave? I don't know. Cause I'm torn because I just absolutely love what I do. And I love what this organization stands for.
And
How about you?
I think for me, so full transparency, and I've shared this with my leadership, I'm still too young in my career to think that I'm going to retire from this position. I need change, I need growth, and this is the highest procurement position in the county. And I know I can't do it for 20 years. Like, I'm just not the kind of person. I wish I could be the kind of person that could master something and then coast for the last 10 years. I know that I will need growth. And so I've shared that with my director. So one of the things that will motivate me to leave eventually is if I feel like I'm leaving this department in a better place than it was when I took it over.
Yeah.
Or if another opportunity, like sometimes it's timing. If an opportunity came up that got me further to sort of my own personal professional goals, maybe. But I think the other side of that is, like you, I'm fortunate. I report directly to our county manager, and he's an amazing leader. He is supportive. He trusts us. You know, even working with political officials, we don't always see eye to eye, but I always feel like they respect my opinion. They want to talk through things. If that were to change, if I were to be asked to do something that was illegal or unethical, I'd have to walk away. And I think those are some of those difficult spots. I know people that have said, look, I cannot support this. And so if you're going to move forward, you'll need to do it, recognizing that procurement did not recommend it. If somebody were to force me to say, well, you must agree to this, you must sign it, I'd have no problem walking away in that moment. And I think it comes to what you're saying. It's that leadership component too. If all of a sudden your leadership changed and they were asking you to do things that you knew you couldn't support, and not that that's ever easy, you've got a family to support. Like, walking away from a job is never an easy decision. So, all right. Well, I think we've hit a couple of the key things here. I guess if I were to summarize it, you stay when the values align and you're working with great people. If that could solve all of our retention issues, right? And you leave if for poor leadership, like you leave for poor leadership or being asked to do something that you just know is not right. Like, none of us want to end up in the paper for all the wrong reasons, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? If you ever do decide to leave sunny Arizona and you want to come up, out east to the Cleveland area, hey, I will welcome you with open arms.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thank you for anyone who kind of checked in and listened to us. And we'll be talking on a similar topic in February. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more perspective from the rest of the team. But Charlie, thanks for jumping on this call. And thanks for listening to Radio NIGP.
All right. Peace.
Hello and welcome to Radio NIGP. My name is Bobby Tolston, and we're here today for Deeper Dive, Making a Splash. And I have one of my wonderful colleagues joining me today, Valerie Scott. Welcome to Deeper Dive, Making a Splash, Valerie. How are you today?
Hi, Bobby. I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am so happy to have you on the show. I think this is our second or third time that we've had the opportunity to record a session together. So I'm very excited about our topic today. So today we'll be talking about loyalty to the profession. But before we take a deeper dive into our topic, I would like for Valerie to share a little bit about herself with our audience. So Valerie, tell us some wonderful things about you that you'd like to share.
Oh, I don't know if they're wonderful, but let me try. A little bit about me. I actually got my introduction into procurement when I was in my last semester of college. I worked as a student in the purchasing office as an admin assistant with the P-card program. And I didn't have any idea what purchasing was. It was kind of funny. So after graduation, I continued working in that office for a while and then went off and did something different, financial advising for a couple of years, and decided that wasn't really my cup of tea. I discovered it was actually more so sales than advising, and I just wasn't a good fit for me. And it was kind of fate, as I was walking out of the financial advising office my last day, I got a call from my former boss at the university saying they had this opening, and if I was willing to be trained up, they would like to train me to be a purchasing agent. And it had been a couple of years. So I was pretty excited to get back into it. And I learned so much, and it wasn't on my plan, but I fell in love with it. I had so much to learn, and I had great people around me to teach me and mentor me. And eventually a position opened up in my hometown, and I moved back and have been working for Longmont ever since.
Oh my gosh. Now that is a wonderful story. I always find joy in hearing how people, I'll say, landed in procurement. And I can tell you, I've been doing it for 25 years, and there are no two stories the same. Everyone's story and journey into this profession has been different. But one thing is constant. Once you find public procurement and it's your passion for a very long time. And I don't know many people who get in and get out. It's just like it pulls you back in, and you just honored that story by saying that's kind of what happened to you. You went away and you came back, and I don't think you've left since then, right?
That's right. I've been all procurement all the time ever since.
I can understand that. So why don't we go ahead and dive into our topic? So I'd like to start out with asking you a question. What are some characteristics of an organization that demonstrates employee loyalty?
I really believe in the tone at the top, and I know we hear this a lot in different types of leadership trainings, but it's so true. I find that those organizations where, the top person kind of sets the expectation and sets that culture up to be inclusive and respectful and appreciative. It really does start to trickle down into all levels of the organization. And that has been my experience. The stronger that piece is, the more loyalty it creates throughout the entire organization, vertically and horizontally.
Oh, Valerie, I could not agree with you more. There's nothing more rewarding and fulfilling than having a leader that has faith and confidence in you, a leader that shows up for you, a leader that supports you. And to me, those are the things that I become loyal to a leader, and it helps for me to be loyal to my profession, because it's difficult to be loyal to your profession when the leadership isn't reciprocating that loyalty. So thank you for that. So another question, considering your own core values, what would you look for in an employer?
So one of my core values is service. I just really believe in serving other people and elevating other people, and it not being about me. And so when I see an organization that values that as well, where the conversation is more so about how can we make this better for other people, it draws me in. And when I hear conversations and things that are actionable, things that are happening because we care about other people, it draws loyalty from me because it does resonate with something that's very important to me.
Yes. And it wasn't until recently that I discovered my core value is service. And it's been there all along, but it's not something that I've really thought about much until recently. And that is one of my core values is service. And I get so much joy from serving others in a multitude of ways. And being an instructor is definitely one of those ways that I give back. And it's just so fulfilling and rewarding when you see those light bulbs come on and you're walking down the hall doing the conference, the annual conference, and someone comes up to you and go, "Hey, do you remember me? I was in one of your classes." And it's nothing more fulfilling and rewarding than for someone to recognize you for doing something that you really enjoy doing. So
That's
yeah.
so true. And you know, when you find that resonance with something that is a core value to you, I feel like it fills our cup. So we have more to give, right? So if you are doing something that drains you and is contrary to your values and that you have that
Yes.
dissonance going on, it's really hard to persevere and be resilient because you're kind of fighting your nature.
Yes, yes, I couldn't agree more. So, Valerie, in your opinion, what creates loyalty?
I believe loyalty is created in this development of relationship and mutual
Hmm.
trust and mutual respect.
Yes.
And for me, that's super important because I have lots of ideas, and I know not every idea is a good idea. But to
Hmm.
have someone who will, or an organization who opens up that opportunity to have ideas and to have those ideas respected and listened to, even if they aren't going to work out, just feeling like I'm heard, feeling
Yes.
like I'm included, like I have a seat at the table. It creates loyalty in me because I feel valued. So I think when
Yes.
anyone feels valued, they're going to have more loyalty to their organization.
Oh my goodness, you hit the nail on the head. Valuing employees gives me value, right? Because if I'm valuing you and you're mirroring me, that means that we're going to be successful. It means that we're on the same page. It means that we can do great things together. I'm listening to you. You're listening to me. And at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, right? And that's to do the best job that we can. But loyalty is something that I think is not, it's not a given, right? It's something that you have to earn, just like respect, right? You have to respect yourself. You have to be loyal to yourself. You have to be committed to yourself, not putting yourself first, but you're bringing yourself to everything that you do. And as you said earlier, if it's something that you're passionate about, you're willing to give every ounce of yourself to it. And you're not tired, right? You can work 8 and 10 hour days and feel like it's just 2 or 3. But when it's something that you're not as loyal to, it's like pulling teeth. And at the end of the day, the only thing you can do is lay on the couch because you have no energy to do anything else.
That is so true. And, you know, I would just add one thing I've learned in being a manager is the importance of getting to know people and
Hmm.
understanding what they value.
Yes.
Often, of course, we do share very similar values in
Hmm.
procurement. I think a lot of us do value service and we do just want to do a good job. We don't need a big parade for doing our job, but we want to feel like we did something good. Um,
Absolutely.
but when you get to know people and you really dig into what is it that makes them feel fulfilled and what makes them feel like uh, they accomplished something that's important, and then creating those opportunities for them.
Yes.
I always say we have a very horizontal procurement organization here. There are not multiple levels. And so
Hmm.
I have to be creative in thinking of how is someone going to feel valued when it's not going to be a succession of positions.
Absolutely. Yes. So, Valerie, in thinking about loyalty to the profession, what would you like to leave our audience with?
You know, that is a very hard question, but I think what I would pare it down to is just to remember why we're here, remember our
Hmm.
why. And it could be different for each of us, but to take the time to understand why we do what we do, and we all have our various backgrounds and situations that we're dealing with. And even if we're not in a great situation and maybe we aren't feeling super loyal to our organization, we can
Hmm.
still say we are committed and loyal to the guiding values and principles of procurement. and why they exist and what they're there for, and creating fair opportunities for people. So even when maybe it isn't there with the organization that we're in or the situation we're in, we can look outside of that, I would say, and remember, why does procurement exist? I ask myself that all the time. And that always helps bring it back to, this is why this is important. This is why we do what we do.
Yes, I love that. And in my own personal experience, I'll add that being loyal to the profession sometimes keeps you where you are, right? It may not be the person or the leadership, but when you're loyal to the profession and you are passionate about what you do, sometimes you overlook or not make it such a focus about the leadership, but a focus on the mission of procurement and what we're there for. And we touch so many people in so many ways. And as you said earlier, it's not always recognized, but when we know that we're doing the right thing, that we're living our core values, and that we're doing something that we're passionate about and we're in service for others, some of those other things don't become as important, right? So, last thing before we leave today, and I'm sure we can talk about this for hours. When you think about commitment and you think about loyalty to the profession, how do those two words resonate with you? And I'm thinking they probably resonate a little differently and land a little differently. So tell me, how do those two words land with you?
You know, commitment and loyalty, I would say both in my mind are doing the hard thing sometimes
Yeah.
and having a little bit of grit sometimes when it's not easy, because we all know this is a profession that is not easy. And there are very difficult things that we will all experience at some point. So in that, there is that grit and that doing hard things sometimes. But I also think we can't lose the sense of commitment and loyalty to who we are at the core. And sometimes we have to make sure we're not so committed and so loyal to the profession or the organization that we're neglecting what's important to us. And I think that keeps us on the straight arrow as well, and keeps us true to ourselves.
Absolutely. And I would end with being loyal to the profession is very important. But I think the most important thing is being loyal to you and what you value. Because if you're not loyal to yourself, you can't be loyal to anything and anyone else. I'm a big proponent of self-care. So I'll leave with this: take care of yourself. And the other things sometimes would take care of themselves.
That is so true. I couldn't have said it better.
Well, thank you. So thank you, Valerie, so much for joining me today on Deeper Dive Making a Splash. I'd like to thank our listening audience for joining us. And I want to say happy 2024. And we look forward to seeing you back here again real soon. Take care.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kirk Buffington with Radio NIGP. And today we are here to talk all things Forum. With us, we have Shanda Carpenter, and she is the Director of Research and Development for NIGP. And she's going to tell us about some exciting things coming to Forum in 2024 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shanda, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk with you today. Forum 2024 is focused on driving procurement forward, bringing procurement professionals together to vision the future of procurement. Join us in person on August 25th through the 28th, 2024 in Charlotte, North Carolina, or virtually. We are thrilled to share that all Forum session content will be live streamed to the virtual audience.
Oh my gosh, Shanda. Every session?
Every session.
That's amazing. That really is. I think that's a great upgrade for 2024. So what else is going on?
So the forum schedule includes inspiring keynote sessions, the NIGP Awards Dinner, and an exciting social event at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh, been there, done that.
I have heard it was very popular, and we're super excited to bring that back. Our content offers a variety of learning experiences for those new to the profession, all the way through practitioners with many years of experience. With 72 learning sessions and 20 networking conversation sessions, there is engaging content for everyone. The learning sessions include 75-minute learning sessions, 3-hour workshops, and backed by popular demand, we are offering 3 badged learning paths. Each path consists of 4 sessions. When each session is attended, the learner can take an assessment and earn a badge. The sessions can be attended in person, virtually, or on demand.
That's great.
Our call for presentations will be available in mid-January. Be sure and take a look at that. It'll be available for a month, and visit our website for additional information and key topic ideas. We'll also be releasing scholarships in February, so stay tuned for that. Early bird registrations opens in February as well. In-person early bird registration is $923 for members, and virtual is $299.
Super. That is just great, Shanda. I'm so excited about returning to Charlotte. As I told you earlier, that's where I became president. And the Motor Speedway was an amazing special event. So I think that's very exciting. The streaming of all the sessions, I think, is amazing. And I will tell you that I know the badge certificates were very popular. I talked to several people this past August, and a lot of them just said what a great opportunity for them to pick up some points, if you will. So that's great. Anything else you need to share with us at this point, or we'll look forward to more news coming, obviously, every month, probably.
Yes, please stay tuned. Check out the website. We've got, again, that call for presentations coming out, and early bird registration and scholarship information will be available in February.
Okay. Well, super. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with Radio NIG audience all things Forum. And I'm sure you and I will probably be back together a couple of more times as Forum becomes closer and closer. We'll do the promos. We would love to beat August in Louisville. So,
That sounds great. Thank you.
thank you, Shanda. Again, this is Radio NIGP, and thank you.
Hello, Radio NIGP viewers and listeners. My name is Valerie Scott, and I'm here today with Mike Beavis, and we are going to talk about loyalty to the profession in the scope of law and ethics and what loyalty really requires. So to start, let's discuss, what does the law require? Mike, what do you have to say about that? What does the law require from procurement professionals?
Sure. And the lawyer in me, of course, would say, well, that depends on what state you're in, because most of it is state specific and criminally focused. And some of it is federal, but if you're not a federal employee, it might not apply. So it's interesting to say, what does the law require? But the law always requires some standard things, like you can't accept gifts over a certain value, or you can't do insider trading, or you can't have kickbacks, or you can't have this or that. You can't have conflicts of interest at a certain level, depending on what a relationship might be defined as. But is a grandparent a relative that creates a conflict, or is a niece or a nephew? That depends, right? So the law establishes one set of standards, and that's specific, and you need to learn it for your jurisdiction and your state. And if there's a federal overlay, you need to understand that. But for me, the challenge is not just what does the law require, but what does doing the job properly, what does loyalty to the profession, what do ethics require, right? And to me, that's a totally different question.
Totally is. Yeah. What do you think ethically? What does the profession require from us in this public sector procurement, what is the requirement?
Sure, and it becomes real straightforward, right? You shouldn't benefit personally from your job. It's just that simple, and you can think about that from a much broader standpoint. And the way I like to have this conversation all the time, which is law and ethics are not the same thing. They're barely related. They're barely connected, right? Law is about the things that we've decided as a society are so bad that you're going to be removed from society. You're going to be punished. You're going to lose your pension. Things are going to happen, right? And bad things are going to happen if you do these, right? So they're like a minimum level of behavior. But what we really need to do is much more than that. What we really need to do is face up to what our obligations are as individuals, as good people, and do appropriate things in that sense. So it doesn't matter what the amount of your gift limit is. If it's $10 or $20, I was at the city of Chicago and I would get gifts from vendors that still had price tags on them because they knew there was a $50 limit, right? But you don't accept any gifts because there's no gift that's an acceptable amount, right? So it was a different issue, right? And it's not what's the legal requirement, it's what's the ethical or moral requirement.
Yeah, I think that's a really good distinction because when I think back to when I first started in public procurement, I had this idea in my head that I was going to go to jail for everything. And the reality is, I'm not going to go to jail for many things, but I could ruin my career, my integrity, and my reputation over making a poor ethical decision.
Right. And you have to remember, you know this from your legal training that, it's the appearance of an impropriety you have to avoid, not necessarily the impropriety itself, right? I always tell this story, and this is an absolutely true story. Those who know me know I love baseball. I go to, 50 games a year, which is a lot, right? And I had a vendor call me up and say, the Nationals, I was working outside DC at the time, are possibly going to be in the World Series. Of course, they didn't make it that year. And we have tickets, we meaning the partners, right? And we will not give you a ticket, but we will let you buy one of our tickets if you would like to come because we know you love baseball. We love baseball. I'd like to have you there. You pay for your ticket and you come and it's all above board. We're going to give you a bill. We're going to take the money, right? But I still couldn't go. I couldn't go because I couldn't be on TV next to that vendor, right? I couldn't, the price they would have charged me would have been the face value, which, they were going for a lot more. So there'd be all these issues about what's the real value and blah, blah, blah. It was just so much easier just to say no and buy my own ticket and sit in a much worse seat, but still say no, right?
Right. I mean, appearance is everything. I know there was a story many years ago here in Colorado where we had an investigative journalist who would literally hide in the bushes and take pictures of public employees doing things that didn't look right, even if it wasn't that they were doing something wrong. It was just how it looked, and that's what gets on TV.
Yeah.
So we always have to think about not just what am I doing, but what does it look like I'm doing?
Oh, yeah. It's the old vendor wants to have a lunch meeting. Well, don't. So first off, lunch is your time. Don't work during lunch. Right? If the vendor wants to have a meeting, they should have it during the day. And lunch should be your time to spend with your friends or your family or by yourself or whatever. Right? And even if you pay your own, it's not going to look like you did. Right? And when the competing vendor sees you in that restaurant with their competition, they're not going to say anything then, but they're going to have a feeling about it.
Yep. Yeah. And those are all the things we have to think about,
Yeah.
What does loyalty require of us?
Yeah.
And what does the public view when they see, what do they see? Do they see something that looks above board? Or do they see something that maybe looks a little bit not quite above board? And it's our duty to be loyal to the profession, I think, to just always try to take not just the high road, but the highest road and be above reproach.
Right. And the easiest way I think about it is if you have to question it, don't do it. Or talk to somebody about it and make sure you've sounded it out, right? Because if you're thinking deep inside somewhere that maybe this isn't right, then maybe it isn't, right? There's something core about ethics. You shouldn't have to go to the code, to the Colorado Revised Statutes or the Virginia legislation and look up what's right.
Right.
Right. You've got a good sense of what looks bad and what's wrong, and don't do that, right?
That's right. Well, thank you, Mike, for that discussion, and hopefully our audience learned something or will take something back to think about in terms of the loyalty that they have in terms of how they present themselves as professionals and how they hold the line at a higher standard than just what is legally required.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for letting me be part of the conversation. Always appreciate spending time together and being part of Radio NIGP.
Hello, and welcome to the January 2024 episode of Tech Talk. This month, we're focusing on the upcoming headliner series, Harnessing AI in Public Procurement. I have with us today Brooke Smith, one of the contributors for this section. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I was really intrigued when I saw this as a topic for a headliner series. So can you just give me kind of a brief synopsis of what this is going to be about?
So the headliner series is going to be an in-depth version of and training on what AI is and how procurement professionals can use it in their everyday life. We're going to talk about some of the risk of using it. We're going to talk about some of the ethics of using it. We're going to have some real life scenarios and some information that we can share with you on how to be more efficient and be better at finding out information quicker. AI is just taking over the world, and it's a fun opportunity to see these changes and be on the forefront of it. So we're excited to share this information.
Oh, that sounds great. So right before we started recording, you and I were talking about how I'm using AI to build specifications for an end user who really doesn't have the time or probably the bandwidth to put together specifications, and why I was using AI just simply because we would never get the solicitation out. So what impact do you think leadership support has in the use of AI?
Leadership support. So one of the interesting things with leadership is it's all about change, and AI is a significant change. What we need to think about with change is how to add those protections. And I think the unknown is pretty scary for upper administration and leadership. So in our headliner series, we're going to talk a little bit about how to get people more onboarded. But with that, I think it's important to know that there are protections that AI is doing, OpenAI is doing. They just released a new booklet. It's called the Preparedness Framework. It was just released on the December 18th, and they're talking about the gaps to track, evaluate, and forecast and protect against catastrophic risk by posing and increasing powerful modules. So they are tracking this information. They're trying to figure out the unknown unknowns. So what they don't know can happen with AI. And then also they're talking about cybersecurity. They're talking about, let me scroll down real quick. They're talking about, and the power of persuasion. I think you're seeing a lot of that talk right now about how it's going to persuade the elections the coming season. But I think there's protections we can put in place in our agencies, and leadership needs to know about those protections and be educated on those to make those changes and be comfortable using AI moving forward.
Yes, I totally agree. Like I said, I did it out of kind of desperation to keep from having to spend a year writing the specifications for the solicitation because it's quite intensive. But thinking about AI, do you think it can help us mitigate risks in our profession, such as maybe verifying specifications?
Yeah. So AI is a great tool because it has resources that are exponential. I mean, the knowledge base that AI has and is able to pull from is great. What we need to help users know and learn is to be educated on how to do those prompts and get that information out there successfully, and then verifying that information. That's some of the trainings that we'll talk about and how to protect yourself. But AI, we need to know that AI is not foolproof. You need human oversight over it. and then to start with low risk applications. If you have, say your specifications for fence building, you still go back to the professional and the end user that is the subject matter expert and say, are these specifications meeting your needs? And that lowers your risk when you're using AI.
And that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm just waiting for him to get back to me. You briefly touched on it, but do you foresee any pitfalls of the use of AI?
Pitfalls, I think it's about training. It's so new. It's basically developing a new skill set. And as professionals, we need to continue to educate ourselves and build up those skill sets, but we have to be able to trust the information we're receiving and practice as well. So I think going to these headliner series, watching newsletters that are coming out about AI, and getting as much information as you can about AI is really going to be a beneficial skill set that you're going to bring into your agency as AI develops and continues to go on.
That's wonderful. Well, Brooke, I want to thank you so much for your candid responses. I think this gives everybody a great taste of what the Headliner Series is going to be about. And if they haven't signed up, by the time this show airs, hopefully they'll sign up.
Yeah.
So I do want to kind of do a shout out to you, because while I've interviewed you before on this show, what many of our viewers may not realize is that you help Radio NIGP do a lot of our marketing. And so I want to thank you again for joining us and for all that you do for Radio NIGP and the procurement profession.
Oh, thank you so much. I love it. And I
See you next
appreciate
time,
the opportunity
everyone.
to be involved. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. See you next time.
Well, hello from Radio NIGP. Very excited because two other individuals that I spend a lot of time with a topic that I love are with me here today. We affectionately and humbly call ourselves the RFP Dream Team, and I want to welcome here today Mike Thornton and Stephanie Dion. In regards to a fun event coming up very shortly, not only do we have a Learning Lab series on RFPs through NIGP, but we also have a preview webinar coming up. First, let me, Stephanie, Mike, why don't you guys do a short introduction and tell us about yourselves, and then we'll jump into the topic of the day.
I'll go ahead and go first. My name is Mike Thornton. I am currently the practice lead at Civic Initiatives for our Procurement as a Service division. Have over 30 years experience in public procurement and currently a certified public procurement officer. And I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Stephanie Dion. I'm the procurement manager for Canoe Procurement Group of Canada. I have just under 20 years of public sector procurement experience in various types of entity, from provincial government, municipalities, crown corporations, and municipal association as of recently. I'm excited to be here.
And a short synopsis, we spend a little more time when we do our learning labs and we talk about how we came together, but real briefly, NIGP has global best practices. They wanted to update the RFP white paper, and they asked for people to volunteer, and three of us, along with others, came together. We updated that document and we had so much fun. We said, hey, let's take this on the road. And we did some presentations at Forum. Eventually, we created the Learning Lab series, which kicks off at the end of February. We'll talk about that more in just a little bit. But Stephanie, would you say we like RFPs?
I think we eat RFPs for breakfast, Victor. I think between the three of us, there's no doubt that the level of enthusiasm for RFP is very high. Actually, I've only done RFPs in my career. I've never done a formal bid. So yeah, we definitely enjoy discussing our experiences and sharing all the good and bad that we've experienced in our careers. Mike?
Yeah, our RFPs are really an excellent tool to have in your procurement toolbox. It is a procurement method that I think is often misunderstood. So being able to understand its value and execute the RFP process correctly to result in the best outcome for your entity is definitely important. You know, as with all public procurement, I mean, it's pretty easy to read a textbook on how to do an invitation for bid, how to do many things in public procurement, but I think with requests for proposals, the best way to learn and to get better at them is through experience by doing them. Unfortunately, a lot of procurement professionals don't have a lot of experience doing them. So that's the benefit of the RFP Learning Lab is you've got 20, 30, how many years, Victor, do you have?
37 and counting.
So you got 87 years of experience, public procurement experience right here that can help you steer clear of the common mistakes that are done in a request for proposal process.
And you bring up a great idea in that the RFP process, or Stephanie says process, is very unique and misunderstood. I'm always impressed how many people that we have coming to the labs and how some reoccurring topics come up. And there's always a new group, and there will always be a new group that wants to learn more about RFPs. Stephanie, for the learning labs, is this just for new beginners to RFPs, or is this open to everybody? Who would benefit from coming to the labs?
That's a great question, Victor. I think we've seen along the way every type of engagement through our RFPs attendees. We have beginners who are have limited experience in procurement and want to build their resume, and they have career aspirations that they want to meet. We've also seen some more seasoned professionals who want to refine what they currently do in their entity. We've also seen teams that are coming together so that they can use this as a learning experience to improve collectively their document processes within their organization. So there's really a wide range of possibilities with the content that we offer in our labs.
And the Learning Lab is a 6-week series kicking off February 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific, and you could do the math for the other time zones. But it's every Thursday for 4 hours, and we touch on the entire process. Let's just put it that way. And we dive into some deeper discussions, some breakout sessions, where we walk away with a deeper understanding of the entire process. And then I would say basically knowing not just how to do the RFP, but why we do particular parts of the RFP.
So, Victor, I wanted to remind our viewers, listeners, that the labs are individual. So there's 6 in the series, and a person could choose to take one or more of the labs. There's no requirement to take the entire series. If time or money is an issue, they can really customize their learning experience based on the content of the labs.
Yeah, and I think that's beneficial being able to select in that, because even though if you're experienced and have been doing requests for proposals, I think there's always one area that we all may struggle with, and it may be different for each of us, depending on, each of us as a individual and also within our organization. Maybe you struggle with evaluation criteria or evaluation committees. Well, you can take that lab that addresses that particular topic if that's an area where you want to obtain more information, more education. So I think that's a benefit even for the advanced or seasoned procurement professional.
I encourage everyone to click on the link below or simply do a search for NIGP Learning Labs RFP. You'll get a description of each one of the labs with a little more background and the takeaways that you'll be doing. If you are interested, but you want to find out more, attend the free webinar coming up, but really encourage people to attend at least the first Learning Lab on February 29th, where we talk about the entire process and an overview. The first 3 labs will talk about the why behind RFPs, and the other 3 are the how. But we encourage you to sign up and attend the free webinar, and then sign up for the Learning Labs, because they're coming to you at a website near you.
Hello, Radio NIGP listeners. My name is Valerie Scott, and on this month's edition of Radio NIGP, we are discussing loyalty to the profession with a focus on changes for professionals. It is my pleasure to welcome Molly McLaughlin as our guest procurement professional on the go. to talk about staying on the move and bringing others along. Molly, thank you for joining me today.
Good morning, Valerie. How are you today?
Doing well. Doing well. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thanks, Valerie. So I've served in public procurement for over 20 years. I'm currently the procurement official and director of procurement for the Colorado Department of Transportation. I oversee 26 staff members, and we support more than 25 divisions. I have a bachelor's degree and also a master's. I've been an active member of NIGP for more than a decade, and that probably is aging me. I currently serve as a governing board director and was recently voted as the next chair-elect of the governing board, which will start in July of 2024. And I also serve at our local chapter, the Rocky Mountain Governmental Purchasing Association. I have previously served as president, vice president, and currently serve as a committee member.
Great, thanks for that background. And through RMGPA, our local chapter, is how I met you, and I've considered you a mentor ever since. And you exemplify what it looks like to stay on the move. And you bring others along with you for the ride. What motivates you to take on new endeavors while encouraging others to do the same?
That's a great question, Valerie. And really, it's all about lifelong learning. As individuals in procurement and procurement officials, we never know all there is to know about the profession or industry, right? And I love learning new things. And I really believe that the day I stop learning is most likely the day I stop living. And truly, if I reflect on this as well, honestly, if I'm really honest with myself, I get bored. And so I like to learn new things every single day. I mean, I learn new things not only within the industry, but outside of the industry. And so that's what motivates me to take on new endeavors and try something new.
I certainly relate to that. I also get bored easily. And this is a great profession for people like us. Why is it important to stay on the move and bring others along?
Well, I stay on the move because the industry, like I said, is ever changing. As professionals, we need to stay in tune with the latest and greatest techniques, the latest and greatest ideas, and trends, like artificial intelligence, for instance, and how we can or should or might incorporate into procurement. I also bring others along because I want them to know everything I know about procurement. I want to share my experiences. I want to share my knowledge. And I think it's important when you're thinking about succession planning, because it's about building the next generation of leaders. And so bringing people along with you as you move forward in new endeavors helps them learn and grow as future leaders. And I want to make sure that we create leaders to replace ourselves. For instance, I want to make sure that my team knows everything I know about public procurement and about leadership, because they're going to replace me. And they should know everything that I know. Holding on to information doesn't benefit anybody. So one of the important things that I feel NIGP does really well is volunteerism. And when we share and serve others, it creates an avenue to learn from others. It creates opportunities you never thought of. It gives more meaning to your life, and it creates memories and relationships that last a lifetime.
That is so true. And volunteering within NIGP gives you access to so many people you maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to access, in your agency or day to day. And succession planning is always close to my heart. So definitely an important piece to bring up, and always be thinking about the next person, the next man up. They say in sports, same idea. Well, your next big move is to chair-elect for the NIGP governing board. Where do you see the Institute and the profession heading?
Well, that's a great question, Valerie. And so Some of the things that we're currently working on right now are strengthening relationships with the academic community, making sure that we're curating and creating a lifelong learning environment for our members, and then also strengthening the relationship between NIGP and our network of chapter affiliates. So that's what we're working on right now. Where do I see the profession and institute heading? Well, if you look at the trends that are happening in public procurement right now, there really, I'd put it into three big buckets. One is innovation in procurement. And I mentioned artificial intelligence earlier. You know, looking at how we can use artificial intelligence to become more effective in public procurement and increase productivity. Also proactively developing our supplier pools, right? Figuring out creative and alternative options, because during COVID, everybody was at a standstill with all of the supply chain interruptions, right? So those are two things in procurement that we can be more innovative at. The second bucket that I would say is trending is really transforming our procurement operations. You know, not just buying and doing solicitations, but really using the data behind all of the things that we do and trying to predict how things are going to change, where our costs going to increase, and using predictive analysis to become more effective. You know, using real-time data, upgrading our technical systems to make sure that we have data at our fingertips to provide upper management and leaderships to make better strategic decisions, right? Another key thing in transforming procurement operations is that remote work is here to stay. It's not going away. You know, as we look at future generations, their focus is not working until they die. Their focus is making sure they have a work-life balance. And so remote work offers that flexibility. And then making sure that we're building relationships with suppliers, because again, we have, from experience during COVID, supplier relationships matter and they are important, and making sure we develop those for education opportunities, for just making sure that we have the goods and services we need. It's vital to our industry. The third bucket I think that is trending right now and is really important for us to realize is that people are looking to procurement and we should be using it for good. And when I say using it for good is that, for instance, sustainability. It's always been kind of a trend that people should be more sustainability in their procurement, or more sustainable in procurement. But really, sustainability is a must and no longer an option. For instance, consumers are looking for environmentally friendly products that are sustainable, that are not creating more waste streams. And so sustainability in procurement is now a necessary thing and not an option. Another thing, when I say using for procurement for good, is making sure that we are adopting and focusing on inclusivity and diversity, not only on our procurement teams, but also on our supplier pools, right? Making sure that we're doing outreach to small businesses, to diverse businesses, and that we're not going to the same pool of suppliers. You know, making sure that we're really creating an equitable environment, because there are a ton of suppliers out there that could meet our needs that maybe we haven't even thought about, right? And another thing that we need to look at as a force for good is we've all, through the COVID years, and now that we're out of them, well, not really out of them, but, you know, post the major COVID years, is that labor is a shortage. And we need to think about succession planning, because we have a lot of very wise and procurement professionals who are ready to retire and do something different. And so with labor shortage, we need to really focus on succession planning and making sure that procurement professionals of the future not only have the functional skills, but the soft skills, because we need to be better at empathetic negotiation. We need to be really good at analytical and strategic thinking. We need to be good at communication, conflict resolution, and collaboration. And the reason I say that is because we are not only competing within procurement, we're competing with suppliers for the same people and skills. We're competing with the private industry for the same people and skills. And there is a shortage of skilled labor out there to do the strategic work we need to do moving forward.
Wow, this is just such an illuminating conversation, and you have so many really good, robust points there. I'm going to have to go back and watch this interview myself again, just to like write some of that down, because I think you really hit what a lot of people are facing right now as they're looking at the future of procurement. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your vision and your ideas and a little bit of yourself with our Radio NIGP audience. And I definitely look forward to seeing your leadership in the Institute over the next few years. And I've always appreciated having you as a mentor and someone I can reach out to when I need advice or just someone to listen to me or hear some ideas. So thank you, Molly. And I am very glad that you had the opportunity to share all of that with our broader audience.
Well, thank you, Valerie. It's, I just appreciate this opportunity. Love all the work that we get to do together at our local chapter, and our continued work together with NIGP and our ability to serve our members and just provide information in new formats. So thank you for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Hello, this is Keith Glatz, and I'm happy to welcome you to Way to Grow, an NIGP mentorship moment. Today, we're going to talk about the question. If you're a mentor, you know it's going to happen. One day, your mentee comes to you and says, my boss wants me to do this unethical thing. What do I do? Dave Nash is with us today. And can you tell us, Dave, what you do in a situation like this? Or has it ever happened?
Yeah, I actually had a situation a number of years ago when I was teaching, and somebody approached me after class. They were the P-card administrator for their agency, and they had determined that 3 guys had gone down to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that and had bought $2,700 worth of merchandise, and their P-card limit was $1,000 each. So like at 9:01, the first $1,000 was charged, and then 9:02, you could see it on the receipt, and another 1,000, and then the third guy, $700 at 9:03. And she said, what do I do with this? They're not supposed to split awards. And I said, well, what I would do is just pull their cards for a certain period of time. I mean, put them memo in their file or something, counsel them, whatever. And she says, well, it's actually happening across the whole public works department. And I said, really? I said, well, just the death, I called it the death penalty. I just pull everybody's card. And she said, well, I'd like to do that. And I said, well, what's the problem? She says, well, my boss, the purchasing manager, is good friends with the public works director and doesn't want to embarrass him, cause problems for him. And I just looked at her and I said, really? I said, okay. Well, what I'd do, I'd go home after this class, and on my home computer, I would write up names, dates, everything I could think of, and conversations I'd have with my boss, and I'd print a copy of it, stick it under my mattress. Because at some point, this is going to blow up. Some auditor is going to come in there and find this. I mean, my agency, buyers were responsible for auditing P-card transactions in their departments once a quarter. So it's going to come out, and you're the P card administrator. So it's entirely possible the manager's going to turn around and say, oh, well, I didn't know anything about this. She did it. And the second thing I would do is start working on my resume and looking for another job, because why would you want to work for somebody that would sanction that kind of behavior? And I've often wondered what she did. I probably still have the roster for the class somewhere, but I've been sorely tempted to call her up and ask her, but I don't know what she did.
That's always a situation. Yeah, somebody comes to you, the answer is there. You always wonder about the follow-up on it, but we do what we can do.
Yes.
That's all we can do. And Brooke, I understand that you actually, as an informal mentee, went to Dave with an issue yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
About a year and a half ago, I was working on one of the biggest RFPs we've ever done. It was a $35 million construction project for a new city hall. And a question came up where I didn't know how to answer it, or I have that voice to answer it. And I had to call someone. I wanted a professional opinion, and Dave Nash was one of the first people that I called. And I got his unsolicited, his information from him, and asked him about what to do and how to do it. And he gave me that voice to go back to my administrative staff and have that confidence in saying, these are the rules that we have to follow because of this. And it just gave me that extra boost and that extra confidence to go back and really explain the situation and educate my administrative staff about what we needed to do. And I was fortunate enough to know Dave Nash enough to give him a call and have him advise me on something. And I'm so thankful he answered the phone call and was able to give me some advice that day, because it's helped me out and I've thought about it ever since.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Glad I could help.
Yeah. Which brings to the point of, like, when we are in situations, we will all be in a situation one day where there's an ethical question asked. And it's nice to have people that you can call on and rely on and get advice, whether it's in your state or within your agency or nationwide. And that's why the benefit of going to NIGP Forum and meeting people and professionals in procurement is so important.
Right.
That's definitely the benefit of having mentors out there who can help and having a great network. And NIGP definitely provides that great network.
They do.
Well, Dave and Brooke, thank you for joining us here today. And I want to remind you that we'll be back again soon with Way to Grow. So join us here the next time. This is Keith Glatz reminding you that this is Radio NIGP.
So I've asked myself a number of times, how much would be enough for me to risk going to jail with some type of procurement fraud? I haven't come up with an answer. I don't look good in orange. It seems, though, that Mr. Brian Bravo of Broward County, that's in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area of Florida, $600,000 might be a good number for him. You see, Mr. Brian Bravo was procurement director for the local hospital, and he got caught up in a kickback scheme with about 4 contractors that they said ended up being about $600,000 in kickbacks, but he pled guilty to $467,000, and 150 of that was just straight cash. It's insane, right? Procurement officers, as I see it, are supposed to be the gatekeepers of ethical procurement, fairness with our supplier community, and open and fair competition. So how does one procurement officer get caught up in something like that? I have no idea. But I will say this as we are nearing the end of this month's show. If we're going to talk about what it is to be loyal to the procurement profession, then we absolutely have to talk about doing our jobs, showing up every single day, doing the best job that we can do. As we are going into the new year, 2024, the word excellence has been on my mind every single day. And I remember that when NIGP had the forum in Philly and we checked into the Marriott, they wore badges that said, if not in excellence, then why? So that's my question to you. If we are not operating in excellence, if we are not working as gatekeepers for ethics, if we are not coming in, showing up, doing our best jobs every single day for our constituents and our stakeholders, then what exactly are we doing? So you can find this article about Brian Bravo on the internet in several places. I share it with you as I have a file full of ethical articles, just so that I can bring this content to you every month. And also because it's a reminder that I might look good in black, but I'll never look good in orange. Thank you so much.
Hello, friends. I hope you have enjoyed today's broadcast where we've explored loyalty and loyalty to the profession. So, loyalty is truly defined as a strong feeling of support or allegiance. And in today's broadcast, you've heard from a lot of people that really talked about loyalty, both to their organizations and to the profession as a whole. Words and concepts that you've heard include trust, mutual respect, being heard, being given, and making new opportunities, making a difference and adding value. The procurement profession is truly somewhat unique. It is at its core a service function within an organization. We serve our end users, we serve our communities, and many people in the profession truly have a servant's heart, if you will. Because of this, we do care about making a difference, no matter where we are or what we're doing. So remember that no matter where you are, always continue to serve, leave things better than you find them, look for ways to add value and make a difference, and you'll find that the loyalty that you feel towards our profession will return back to you tenfold. And if today's broadcast had nuggets of information that has you thinking, I'd like to explore this further, join us for the After Hours segment where we take a deeper discussion and have a deeper discussion into the topic of loyalty to the profession through volunteerism. I promise you won't be disappointed. Until next time, friends, keep being you, stay loyal to the profession, stay loyal to your organization, but above all things, stay loyal and true to you and who you are. Have a great day.
Why do we volunteer anyway? Why did we start? You know, there's a reason, right? So when you think about it, what brought you to volunteerism?
I will say and it's definitely not the Kate version of the welcome, we actually ended with volunteerism. It turned into how do you decide if you're loyal to the profession or not? And it was kind of like asking questions like, why would you leave your organization? And if it's for title and pay primarily, you may not be loyal to the profession. But if it's, I get to go work for a respected leader, I get to go work somewhere that I know will empower me, then you might be loyal to the profession. And then one of the pieces that we wrapped up with is how does volunteerism and professional organizations play into this? And what we talked about is that if that's an important factor to you in making a decision about where you're working, then you're probably loyal to the profession. And we talked about so much of why does it matter if you're loyal to the profession or not, or why should you care about this topic? It came down to if it's about impact and being fulfilled at work. So I think I think this is in line with all of that we assumed we would be talking about. So I like it. And because it's the after hours, we just kind of talk over each other, right, Victor? I mean, it tends to be less scripted and more just free thought. So
Free flow of thoughts.
yeah. Miss Bobby's always so quiet. I'm curious. Your thoughts.
So when I think about volunteerism as it relates to the profession, I have learned that I am more dedicated to the profession than I am to an employer. And I've only come to that realization during the past year when I transitioned into my new role, that I still want to be engaged with NIGP through volunteering, through participating in webinars. All of those things that I've enjoyed for 20 plus years, I still enjoy those things. So my loyalty is to my career, because if you have a career, you'll never need a job.
That's right. Yeah. If you love it, you love it, right?
So yes, staying loyal or being loyal to the profession, anything that I can do to give back, to have someone not necessarily go through everything I went through to get here. But if I can provide any shortcuts or any mentors or coaching that I can do to help, to me, that's really what it's all about. Because once you've learned as much as you can learn, the more you teach others, I found the more you learn. So yeah, and I think my camera is kind of jerking around. It looks like that to me, but yeah.
I personally like that better, the way it was kind of like we're at a disco or something. I don't know. It was kind of cool.
I feel like Bobby, you summarized it so well. Sorry, I cut you off, Stacy, but I think you just said everything that we might want to say, and that we probably each could share our own story and go deeper. But I think you really eloquently shared, I would argue, most volunteers' experience. To Stacy's point earlier when we were talking, sometimes the why you got into volunteerism, it may be self-centered to start. It may be, hey, I want to grow my network. I want to be able to have connections with other people. It may be, I want to stand out for this upcoming promotion that I know is coming, and if I get involved. But I think anyone that stays in it, it gives back so much more to us. And I love your unique story of being faced with the making a transition that takes you out of procurement as an actual career path. You were like, how can I still stay engaged with NIGP? How can I still be involved with these people? So I don't know. I just love it. But Stacy, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, but Bobby also pointed out something, and I think each of us have had some sort of change or shift in our career at some point or another. And have you ever, as you were going to accept that offer, before you accept it, said, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm already involved in NIGP in this way. I'm already giving back in this way. Is that going to be a problem? Either I'm already an instructor, I'm already on, this or that council or this or that committee, right? And making sure that, hey, I can still do that if I take this job, right? And so, that in and of itself shows the loyalty, that it's not really just about your job, but the importance and the value in giving back holistically.
You know what's funny, Stacy? I didn't ask that question. I didn't ask either of those questions. And you know why I didn't? Is because of my commitment to the profession. I knew that it would work out one way or the other. Yeah. And I didn't allow that to dissuade me from the opportunity. I just figured it'll work out. And if not, then I just got another decision to make. Well, but I oddly did not. I didn't even think about that when I was offered, because I guess in my mind, I just knew I'm going to do it. I'll just figure out how.
As I said, that's your personality, Bobby. You're going to push forward and figure it out. I know Charlie was trying to say something.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to interrupt the disco moves again. So I've been at my current position a little bit over 14 years. And when I first got here with Cleveland Metro Parks, I didn't know anything about NIGP. I didn't even know anything about like NIGP and also like what these chapters are. I had no idea. My boss said to me, "Hey, I want you to go get certified." I said, "Oh, okay." So from there, I contacted NIGP. They got me in touch with, and now 2 chapters, but at the time 1 chapter in Ohio. But I remember just going and like, I was just going to get my certification. I was driving 2 hours south down to Columbus, Ohio, to get my, my classes in and things like that, and start, training. But from there, I went to my first forum, and it was in Orlando. And I remember being there and seeing all, number one, the craziness and the awesomeness and the opportunities to network. And for me, I was like, I want to do that. How do I get involved? So I remember so the first year I kind of laid low, at Forum, like I just hung around the Columbus, Ohio peeps. But then the following year, like I remember talking to Jen, Stefan, and Carrie Winter, and I'm like, hey, what can I do to get involved? And then I joined the QCT. And I did that because I wanted to be involved with Forum, but also me personally, I wanted to get to know everybody that I could to grow my network. Just like today. I mean, if I didn't go to Forum and join NIGP, I wouldn't be sitting here with, the 4 of you. I wouldn't have gotten to know Carl Benito and Mike Beavis and, the whole NIGP staff. And can I go on? Right. So that's what I get out of it. And I love it. And I will do whatever I can to keep, part of the reason why I think I fit pretty darn well right now for the first maybe, what is it? 1, 2, 4 months on Talent Council is I just love talking to people and getting them involved. And what can we do to make that happen?
And that's the fun thing about volunteering. I'll go into my comments in just a second. It's volunteering in your skill set, in your passion. Sometimes you're not aware of it yet, but when you start to do something, you're like, I really like this, or I don't like this, or I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to proceed until I'm good at what I see other people doing. And NIGP is great to see people who excel in particular skills, and more than less, they're willing to take time to say, this is how I got to where I'm at. It's not a secret. I'm not special. Yeah. I'm just like you, but I put in the time and effort to get it done. But I wanted to draw a real quick distinction. There's a fine line between loyalty to your entity and paying it forward, being the volunteer role. Mm-hmm. And this last year, I've really had to weigh in regards to my priorities and show, if I am volunteering, am I bringing value to myself and to my entity? Because there's nothing worse than people in your office going, oh, you're going on another trip. And you come back and say nothing. Instead, you come back and say, I learned this at Forum this year. This is so cool. We're going to do this. Then you see the value and people see why it's important to let others volunteer. Wow, look how much they've grown in this year by doing these things that they tell us about. So it's not a secret club. It's a volunteer club.
I like how you said that, Victor, because especially when I first started going here at Cleveland Metro Parks in the procurement world, we were like very antiquated. I mean, ton of paper, nothing electronic. And at the time, my director and our controller, or I'm sorry, our treasurer said, hey, go out there and learn and do whatever you can and bring as much ideas back as you want. And I want you to run it by us, but then roll with it. And that's where I got a lot of our ideas of what we're doing now is by talking to people, going to Forum and going through the expo and seeing the different e-procurement systems that are out there. Like, we currently use public purchase, but I would have known that unless I went to Forum. So like, I'm happy you said it, because at the very beginning, oh my God, the ideas you bring back, and that's just, yeah. Can I have done that without volunteering? Absolutely. But by volunteering, you get to talk to people about what else they are doing and it just, you just keep building that network. And that's, like I said it before, but that's what I like the best about it.
I think that's the unique piece of volunteering. And like for me, volunteerism, it's so funny. I feel like I have a piece of each of your stories in my own personal story, which is that weird thing that connects us all. But, you know, my initial engagement with my chapter, it was part of an employee evaluation. I was busy doing everything that I could, and I wasn't attending chapter meetings. I set it as a goal just to be part of the chapter because my leader supported the chapter. And I was like, I just want to attend the meetings. And then you start getting involved with volunteer opportunities then. And then I got a scholarship to Forum. And then you attend Forum. And every time it could stop there. It could be Forum's a great one time a year event. And I go and I get to see all these people. And I remember this lady named Bobby, and she might have done something like this. And I can go back and find the business card, and I can call Bobby 6 months later and say, you may not remember me, Bobby, but we were in this class together and you talked about this. That's great. Or I can come back and share with my agency, here's the cool things I learned about this, and it stops there. But when you add volunteerism to it, now you're engaging with these people year round. And now it's not weird for me to text Stacy and be like, Stacy, I need 5 minutes. I'm just overwhelmed. This question was asked again. I just need someone to vent to, or I just want to talk about something going on in my life because I'm struggling with whatever, or, you know, send a joke text to Charlie or whatever. But to me, that's the beauty of volunteerism, is it's not just Forum. It's not just your chapter conference. It's not just your quarterly meetings, whatever it may be. You're now engaging with these people in a different way all year long. And I look at each one of you and I have private conversations going with you. I mean, like, we're BFFs. We talk throughout the year. And that's, I think, one of those fun things. And I loved the other piece I want to talk about when Bobby said she didn't even think to ask the question. I did ask the question, but it's two different sides of the coin. Bobby is very personally convicted. And she was like, if the agency doesn't support it, then I will have to find a way to power forward and make it happen privately, or I'll be looking for another position. For me, it was like, I'm moving back to my hometown. It's a small town, and I need to know that I'll be fulfilled. I made it part of my offer. And usually with directors, they just call and say, do you want the job? They don't give you a written offer. And I said, well, I need to know what you're offering me. Are you going to give me a written offer? And they were like, what? And I said, I want to see a written offer before I say yes. Yeah. And so they got me the written offer, and I replied, and I said, in the interview, we talked about, I'm currently serving on the governing board, and I'm currently serving on the member council. I need that to continue, and I need you to support it. And I had them put it in my job offer. So it's two sides, and I think we all get there differently. But I love hearing the various stories, because I can totally see your personality, Bob. You're like, I knew it would work out, and if it didn't, I'd find a way to make it work out. So,
you know, one of the things for me now that has exceeded any expectation that I ever had, because I really didn't have an expectation, having the opportunity to have a page on NIGP's website to talk about cultivating a positive mindset and mental wellness. I'm just blown away by the fact that it's now 51 members. People continue to join that since August. And to know that that came from volunteering to do more than what we did at the conference, because it was so powerful for a lot of people. That to me is more gratifying than anything, right? When I think about volunteering, I volunteered to do a presentation. I had no idea that it would catapult into what it has. So I've been a member of NIGP since 2000. And I've always found a way to attend conference. And since 20, I think I've attended 17 conferences. So when you talk about making that part of your offer, I have done that in my positions, and that's why I've gone so many times. But what I get from it is what you guys said, the camaraderie, building those relationships with people that you see maybe once a year, but building a bond to where you'll find a reason to connect with them throughout the year. And when you come back for the next year, it's like it's just time just stood still, or it hasn't moved, because then you can catch up and enjoy the time with each other. So volunteerism has brought me more joy than I imagined that it would.
Well, I was looking for this quote because to me, it's by Tony Robbins. And it says, it's not what we get, but who we become and what we contribute that gives meaning to our lives. And so we're talking about the things that, that we get out of it. But let's even think about the bigger picture, right? So when we give back to NIGP, if we didn't volunteer, there's not enough staff alone to keep the organization functioning and moving. Yes. It is volunteers that make the magic happen, right? They are a part of keeping the organization viable. So it's so much more than what does Stacy or Bobby or Tara or Charlie or Victor get. But what would happen to our institute if we didn't volunteer? Could it function? And then if it didn't, then what would happen to the profession? So, sometimes when we think about volunteerism, we think, oh, well, how important is it? How big of a deal? What difference does it make?
Yes.
I think it's critical to the life of our profession as a whole. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, not just critical, it's essential to our profession, that helping others. That's what procurement does. I mean, if you want to get down to we spend all our time helping others. And that's just a natural character trait that we have. I like the NIGP volunteer webinars, but that only goes so far. It's that individual one-on-one conversations that you have with first-time attenders at Forum, with your staff. And I was at a conference in San Diego here earlier this year, and it was a great conference, procurement geeks, hug fest and all the normal stuff that we do. But one of the AV techs was just watching us. And Rick Grimm was there, and he thought somebody didn't have breakfast, and the waiter brought breakfast to our table, and we already ate. I took it up to the AV tech and I said, "Hey, have you eaten?" He goes, "No, I haven't. Oh, thank you so much." And then he started watching us and listening to us, and then at the end he says, "What is it about you guys?" and we hear this from AV techs at Forum. It says, when we have these conferences, it's usually professional, serious, not fun. But you guys are passionate and fun and serious all in one big package. And we hear it not only from ourselves, but from those watching us. It's a big family. And how do you relate that to people that have not volunteered yet? About paying it forward, about family, about serving others. It's with those one-on-one conversations, I think.
Well, and this is where our legacy will reside. Like it's not going to reside in the agency that you're working for. It just is. Procurement doesn't have that space. We'd love to get there, but nobody's going to be like, oh, Charlie retired from Cleveland Metro Parks. Will never be the same. Eventually, they're going to find somebody to fill your role, and they'll be like, Charlie did great things while he was here. Our legacy will be in the things that we helped volunteer for. And to Stacy's point, NIGP, the Institute, could not exist without its volunteers. And I will say NIGP, the Institute, does a great job at recognizing that too. To Victor's point of, is it benefiting me or is it benefiting my agency, and how do I bring it back? When you start volunteering on things that aren't sort of training related, it's harder to show that connection. It's harder to say, here's the benefit my agency gets from me being on the talent council, because the job description of being on the talent council purely benefits NIGP. It doesn't benefit Mojave County. Me being on the talent council doesn't help Mojave County. So I have to be able to say, one, I'm a respected leader within our profession. Two, I know where all the talent is within our profession. And I know if I need to reach out to somebody, who I can reach out to, even if it's somebody I don't know that well. But some of it is just knowing that you have somebody who's leading your department who is someone who gives back. And so being able to make that connection. And I would also argue, if I'm not able to make that connection, I also often make the connection. I think once we get up to the positions that we're in, we're all salaried. And yes, I'm in the middle of the day helping record something for radio and NIGP related to the Talent Council. But the 30 minutes that I spend in this session, I can guarantee that I've worked more than 30 minutes beyond my work time. And so it all balances out. Mojave County's not paying for a single moment that I am here with you guys because I've put in those hours in other places too. And it's that Bobby, you said it, you get so much more than you give, but it almost becomes this weird cycle. Like, there's the downward spiral. I don't know what you call it when it spirals up, but the more that I give to NIGP, the time that I give to NIGP, the more I get back, the more my agency gets back. And sometimes it's things they won't even know. It's, hey, we're in a situation in the middle of COVID, we're in a situation where we may not be able to keep up with, storage of bodies. And how do we approach this? That's not something Tara would ever know. But was Tara able to reach out to people in New York that dealt with this way before us and say, not only am I saying, if we get to that point, what do we need to do? But this is a difficult, sensitive conversation. What did you learn in the middle of it? How would you have approached it differently? Because you had to make decisions on the fly. How did it hurt your community? And I got things that I would never expect. It wasn't call this vendor, call that vendor, and see if they can get you whatever. It was, okay, you're going to have to think about the impact on your staff. If it gets that bad, you're going to have to think about their mental impact. If it gets that bad, don't have refrigerator trucks parked here, 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 and here, because it'll be hard on the public. Those are all invaluable lessons, and those are only available because of volunteerism and networking. And in those moments, I was able to say, look, I've got 4 or 5 people that I can call that have done this on a larger scale, and just see what did they have to go through. Fortunately, Mojave County didn't have to go any further than let's ask the questions, but what a relief to have someone to ask.
Well, and to your point, Tara, as well, I'm sorry, Bobby, the things that you also get from when it's hard, like you said, you can't tie it to training. But what about the things, the learning how to be part of a team? How about increasing your, negotiation skills, your teamwork, your leadership? You start looking at those skill sets that apply that make you all the more better in your current role that you get to give back as well. But you talked about how busy that is. And one thing that I think is also important with volunteerism is kind of on the flip side of that is volunteerism is wonderful for you and for everyone around you, but you also have to know when to say, time out, guys. I want to be able to do all the things, but I can't sacrifice the time that I spend in being able to do my jobs. I can't sacrifice and volunteer so much that my work-life balance goes out of whack, or that my family suffers or takes a back seat. So I think it's very important that, you kind of have to keep this delicate balance of where's my work? Where's my volunteerism? Where am I spending this me time and caring for me that's going to improve my health and keep me fulfilled, but not overcommitting to the point where now I'm stressed and frazzled, and all the benefits I would have that we've talked about are now out the window because I've just overcommitted. So I think it's really important that you really look at where is the best fit. And that's one thing that I will say that the Talent Council and the Pipeline and Placement Committee are really good about asking, what do you like to do? What energizes you? Is there anything that you're just like, oh man, I don't want to do that, Because if you get into a volunteer role that you're miserable in, then that will just suck the life out of you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really about what do you enjoy, and can we find something that energizes you and gives you that boost so that it's a win-win, not a win drag you along kicking and screaming, right? Because nobody wants to be
upward spiral.
Yeah. For sure. Sorry, Bobby.
That's okay. So when I think about volunteerism, it brings to mind a saying that my mentor shared with me many, many years ago. And it's one that I take into both my personal and professional life. And that is always leave something or someone better than you found it. And that's my motto. And that's how I live my life. If I can't make it better, then I just have to move on to something else, right? I have to feel that my effort is going to make someone or something better. And that's when I think about volunteerism, that's what I think about, having the opportunity to leave something or someone better than I found it.
It goes back to the legacy comment about, we don't want to be remembered, but those who follow in our footsteps, that sit at our feet, that watch us, that take it to a whole different level, to some places like, wow, look at you go, that we get to sit back and watch in our retirement or in our less volunteer role, but still participating and fan those flames. There's nothing more exciting than seeing someone scared, but willing to take that chance. And then you say, I see this in you. Would you like to do this? Why don't you fill out this application? We have an opening on one of the boards, and I reached out to someone in the middle of the meeting while we're talking about this, and I said, are you possibly interested in this? And she said, oh, I've already sent in my notice. I am there. But for me to reach out to her to say, I think you should, she's going to be unstoppable. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And I'm excited every time the next generation, or at my age, the generation and the generation before that, that is currently in the industry, just the courage and curiosity and, well, why do we do that in a fact-finding way? Not like, why do I have to do that? Volunteer is a choice. And when people realize, wait, I get to do this and volunteer and do this, man, watch out, world.
I think it fits where Charlie was saying, like his first time attending Forum. And I will tell you, that was my experience too. Like my first attendance at Forum, I was like, I'm going to lay low and try to learn, but you almost can't lay low. And then I was fortunate in Boston, I was able to bring an employee with me. And all of the things that I said at my first Forum, she was saying to me, and it was like, you're in awe. Like everybody looks like a celebrity. So when Carrie's up at the podium delivering the welcome for the day, or Rick is up there acknowledging people, and NIGP does a good job. It's a production, and so you've got these giant screens and there's these people that are larger than life, and so as a new person you're looking at it and you're like, wow, that is someone. That Victor Lemur, he's got to be someone. They've got his face on the big screen, and so you're in awe in the first time that you attend, and then the next time you attend, or maybe even that same trip, you meet them and you're like, oh, he's just like me. That's such a cool feeling. And the only reason that they're on the big screen is they took that step to volunteer, and then it just catapulted them. And so anytime someone said that to me, I'm like, I have no doubt you'll be there someday. If you want it, you will be there someday. And that is like the coolest feeling. To Victor's point, when you see somebody that was nervous, didn't feel they knew anything, or might be interested, but was like, there are 10 other people that are more experienced than me, but they take that step. It's so fun to see them grow. It's so fun to see them. And like, my hope is that in 15 years, I'll be at a Forum and they'll be the one up there giving the address. And it's like, see, I knew you could do it. So
Is it strange to say that in many ways I have so many grandchildren in the industry that I'm so proud of them? Yeah. It's not an age thing. I think it's just, when you're in here for decades and someone's in there for years, they're babes in the industry, but we get to watch them walk and run and hold the bike while all the training wheels are on them, and then take them off and just say, you go.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I think one of the most rewarding feelings is for someone to walk up to you and say, hey, I saw you doing this or that, right? And that's where it kind of hits you and go, oh, wow, yeah. You guys may not realize this, but I'm a very shy person. No, really, I am. You don't believe me, Victor, I can tell.
No, I can, because I'm an introvert too, but when we get together, we're outroverts.
But this pushes me out of my comfort zone, and it makes me want to do more of this. So volunteering is pulling me out of where I would normally just kind of sit back on the sidelines, because Tara just invited me to talk, because I sit here and just kind of listen, but I'm absorbing and I'm learning when I'm listening and I'm being quiet. But sometimes I need an invitation, because I'll just sit here and absorb, right? And walk away and be fulfilled. Like, oh, that was good for me. Was it good for you?
Well, and sometimes it's forcing yourself to perform, right? Like, I'm an introvert too. In these settings, it's exactly like you said, what can I give back? And if that pulls me out of my comfort zone, that's okay. Because if I can give something to someone else and it will make them more successful or more eager, then I'm willing to perform. I go home from Forum and I unplug for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't want to see or talk to anyone because I love it, but it's been a performance.
So I haven't said anything in a long time because everybody just keeps trying to interrupt me.
Well, I was going to tell you real quick. Oh, sorry, Charlie. Go ahead.
You know what? This is.
I was
what
about to
makes
say.
I'm just giving you guys all a big hug right now. So I have to go very shortly because I have to head to a meeting. But a good friend of mine asked me a few seconds ago, what would you tell your younger self on the next steps of volunteering? So I have a mini me at home. His name is Charlie. He's the fourth, right? He's Charlie the fourth. And I try to tell him, he's in 11th grade at school, that to get involved. Get involved. I don't care if I am a jock. I love sports. He's the exact opposite. And it gets me, but I want him to be happy. But get involved. I don't care if it's with school or some other outside organization. Just get involved. You get something out of it. There's social skills you gain if you're an introvert. I am an introvert too. I really do not like to socialize with people and network with people. But I tell my son, haha, right, Tara, right, haha. But I tell my son, like, just get out there. And I have a daughter too. She's 13. Just get out there and get to know people. And the more, and I know they're young, but if you start showing them now, in my opinion, you start showing them now, lead by example. Because my kids go, Dad, you're going away again? And I'm like, well, yeah, because this awesome council called Talent Council, I got onto this group, and now we're going to meet in person in March, and I'm going to this leadership summit in February, and then maybe something in May. But they're like, why, Dad? Because I want to be involved.
Yeah.
So, Victor, to answer the question, what would I tell my younger self, which is my mini me, just get involved. Because I think if you get involved, you're going to get more out of it than what you think you might get out of it.
Yes.
Are we going to round robin that question? Yeah, I think we should. Who's going next? I'll go next. And I'm going to lay, in addition to what Charlie said, is I find some of the most analytical skills people are those in procurement, and it's because they're curious and they ask questions. And I would encourage anyone, why do you do that? Because it's what we do every day. Why do you need that specification? Why does it need to be a green lawnmower? And we get ahead by doing that. And by doing that, we're finding our introverted selves have to step out, but we do it because we want to, not because we don't like it, but we ask the questions because we're going to be responsible for. So the younger self, be curious about everything and ask those questions, those people that you look up to.
So I'll jump out next. And one thing that I wanted to share was something that I shared at Forum. So, oh no, I can't share it. So screen sharing, I can't do. But one of the things that I had was a slide about volunteering with NIGP. And it really is a cycle because volunteers serve the institute serves the profession, and the profession serves society. And so it's that full circle part of the process that as you volunteer, you get to be a part of enforcing the process, improving the process. You're a part of change. You're a part of that awesomeness that gets to be our day-to-day and how it flows throughout that cycle. We get to be all the way through it. Each of us are a member of our own communities. We see what we do when we look around us. When you're involved in the volunteerism, You get to see it on a national level. You get to see it throughout the profession, and it just gets bigger, bigger, bigger. So when you walk by that building and you're like, yeah, I did that. I was a part of that renovation. I was a part of buying this or buying that. You know, when you do that on the national level, I was a part of that policy. I worked on that global best practice. I taught that class. I helped develop that content. I did, you know, it just grows, 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 grows. And not because of your ego, but because it's made a difference. And you're paving the way so that that person doesn't have to learn all those lessons that you learned the hard way. They get to start where you are and then take it to that next level. So you're not always reinventing the wheel. You're just getting better and better and better.
I want to give Bobby space to answer first.
Well, thank you. So when I think about what I would tell my younger self, to find your passion. And once you find your passion, do everything that you can to expand it. And I look at volunteerism as a way of expanding on my passion. So find your passion and expand upon it. And from there, everything else just kind of falls into place, right? Falling into procurement, as we all did, right? None of us said when we were 5, I want to be a procurement professional. No one thought that, right? But finding public procurement as a profession was one of the best kept secrets there is. So let's share the secret with everyone.
I love it. I like each one of you, I think, has had a different element. And for me, I think it's make the time. If you're curious, if you want to get engaged, if you're passionate about it, find the time, because that's where you'll have impact. And so, and you can start small. Find the time to do a committee or a task force. Find a time just to attend chapter meetings. And if it's a fit, if you're passionate about it, you'll start craving it and you'll start finding a little bit more time. And so my regret, I'm still young in my career, but my regret is that I had to wait until I made a commitment to attend chapter meetings to actually feel this impact and be part of this. And I wish I could have started sooner. So I wish I would have made the time sooner. My boss supported it. My agency supported it. I just was a young professional that didn't think I had the time. So carve out some time. It becomes you time as well.
Volunteers don't necessarily have the time. They just have the heart. And that's really what it boils down to. So get involved. If you ever wondered whether or not you could, you should, at what size or whatever, reach out to one of us, reach out to somebody else that's on the talent council, reach out to someone that's on any of the committees, task forces, or council and ask them, what is this about? Explore the link on the website. We'll include it here that highlights the volunteer opportunities. And there's Volunteer at a Glance, where you can look and see quotes from people that have volunteered in that role and why it matters and what they enjoy about it. And what is the time commitment? Does this take a lot? Does it take a little? So there's a lot of things for you to be able to even explore on your own, but just ask questions, be curious, and we're happy to guide you along the way.